अनम्यूट कर बोलायचं.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me, girls?
Yeah, ma'am, just a moment. Rebecca Chirac over here. I'm assistant of Dr. Sujata Naik, and today, on this occasion of World Homeopathy Day, we are conducting this post-traumatic stress disorder and its homeopathic application webinar by Dr. Sujata Naik. So, as all of you know, she is a very well-known homeopath internationally and has lakhs of patients in India and abroad. She has been also running an OPD, a charitable OPD in Konkan region of Maharashtra, and that too for last 7 years with great success. She has also been doing a regular research work, and she has presented this research projects and her work on various national and international health forums. Very recently, she won the first prize at Integrative Oncology Conference in Kochi for her work for oral candidiasis in patients of cancer. She is also a very prolific writer, columnist, and orator, and her books are also well known, the Wellness Shots and Wellness Capsules. So, giving back to ma'am, just a moment, hold on.
Hello?
Yeah, ma'am, you can start.
I hope everybody can hear me. Good evening, friends, and greetings to each one of you on World Homeopathy Day. This is a very special day for us every year because this is the birth anniversary of the founder of homeopathy, Dr. Christian Samuel Hahnemann. And this is the day we all cherish because had it not been for Hahnemann, we would have never got introduced to this wonderful system of therapy. So I know this is a very peculiar circumstances that we are in today. The whole world practically is into shutdown. More than 80-85% of the world is in lockdown. But as they say that behind every crisis, behind every difficulty is a hidden opportunity. And this opportunity of connecting each one of you virtually has come about because of this lockdown that we are in. We are all confined to our homes, but thanks to technology, we can connect with each other and share so much of information, so much of knowledge, so much of experience with each other. And it is only enriching our the treasure of knowledge that we all have from across the globe. And as we see that homeopathy is here to stay, it is one of the leading systems of therapeutics all over the world. In fact, in India, where I practice, across cities and across rural areas, and of course on international forums as well, have seen that there's a very common language, and there is something so much beyond the verbal communication that a homeopath can see and decipher and prescribe absolutely accurately, even in the absence of the so-called detailed case taking. So today we are going to talk about the situation that we are in, and that is the global pandemic that is hitting all of us, and that is the COVID-19. Now, whether homeopaths should or should not treat acute COVID-19, whether they should, at what stage they should introduce their remedies, there's a huge debate and a lot of discussion about that. Fortunately, in India now, the Ayush Ministry has given the go-ahead, and homeopaths, along with other alternative systems, can take part in management of COVID-19. But that apart, for today, our topic is a little beyond that. Today, we are in a situation where it's not just the physical aspect of the COVID-19, the global epidemic that is going to hit us. Dr. Saili, I think all the other participants, because otherwise nobody will be able to hear me. Can you do that, please? Dr. Saili, can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am. All of them are on mute mode itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the main thing is about the psychological impact of this pandemic, and that is going to be reflected in the times to come, in the next 1 month, 2 months, when things might just get worse quickly. And this is throwing up a huge uh, kind of a storm which may come to all of us, and we are going to be grappling with it, and we know that homeopathy has a big role to play over here. So today our topic is post-traumatic stress disorder and its homeopathic application. Next slide, please. Next slide, Dr. Saili. Yeah. So traumatic stress disorder, PTSD as we call, is a type of anxiety disorder. It's a psychiatric disorder. I would say it's a psychopsychiatric disorder, not entirely psychiatric, psychological as well. That's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing or witnessing it. So it could be a wartime situation, it could be a global pandemic that we are experiencing, it could be a violent assault on the person, or a kind of a terrorist activity, or a kind of a sexual violence. Any of that, that's very terrifying, and that leaves a deep-rooted impact on the person who either goes through it or witnesses it, directly or indirectly. And people often develop anxiety after exposure to extreme traumatic events, that is threat of a personal death or injury or death of a loved one. So even if you're not going through it personally, if you're witnessing it, there are people around you who may be going through that trauma, even then that is enough to instill or induce anxiety in the person who's witnessing the event. And the reaction may be acute or chronic. It can be suddenly when you're going through it. So even today, as the pandemic is hitting all of us, there are people who call us up all the time who want to know why this is happening, whether it will happen to me, whether I'm going to be the next in line, how do I take care of myself. These are natural reactions, but when they become exaggerated, then that is called as a stress disorder, and the homeopath will then come in. So this could be acute as it is happening today, or it could be chronic when it happens after 2 months or 3 months. When it happens after 1 month or 2 months, you know that it has become chronic. So next one. Am I audible to everybody? If I'm not, please tell the host, and she will guide you. Yes, so the clinical manifestation. How do you know that the person is suffering from PTSD? There's a triad of PTSD. The most important is that when you re-experience that event, you go through the event again and again, like a flashback. You keep thinking about it. You keep thinking about the damage that this pandemic has caused, about the loss of lives, about the kind of suffering that people are going through, the suffering that somebody close to you has gone through, and you keep reliving it again and again. That is one of the most important diagnostic criteria of PTSD, most important clinical manifestation. Then what happens is that because you don't want to relive that experience, you start avoiding any kind of stimulus which is associated with the event. So you might just want to block out the news channels, you want to block out the newspapers, you don't want to discuss with people about it, or you just simply want to forget it. You try to attempt to avoid everything that will remind you of that particular event. And the third most important thing is you're always on edge. The person who is suffering from PTSD is always on edge. There's an increased alertness. So the person keeps imagining. So if I'm having a sore throat, oh, could it be the beginning of this? If I'm having fever, could it mean it's COVID-19 or the pandemic that is going on? Or is it something else? So the person is in a constant state. It's known as hyper arousal syndrome and startles at any kind of a stimulus that happens. And then, of course, the other things like detachment, there's loss of emotional responsivity. That's the next stage, that the patient withdraws into a shell, does not want to interact with anybody, does not want to know about the problem. There's extreme anxiety, fear, anticipation. There's thoughts which keep coming again and again to your mind that I want to stop this, but I cannot. And there are frightful dreams and then leading to insomnia. So there are people who say that I have difficulty falling asleep, or I keep waking up and then those thoughts keep coming back to my mind. So these patients are at so what happens when a patient is going through this and now everybody is in lockdown and you keep hearing of cases that are happening in your locality or in the vicinity or people who you know. So then to try and get out of this situation, a patient often expresses a lot of anxiety disorders. There are fluctuations in mood, and the tendency to substance abuse may go up. For example, a person who has access to alcohol and is a little weak-willed might just become more addicted, or may try and look for other substances which give him any kind of a temporary reprieve. But the first three important things are that is known as a triad of PTSD. One is reliving the experience, two is avoiding the any kind of stimulus, and third is increased vigilance, that is hyperarousal. So these are the three clinical manifestations of PTSD. Let me just go to the next one. Yes, thank you. So PTSD is more common than we thought. Of all the people who experience it, around 82 to 83% of people are going to be experiencing some kind of trauma because of what is happening in the surrounding today, and out of which at least 8 to 9% are going to be diagnosed with lifetime PTSD. So they are going to be never be able to get out of this experience. And if you recall, like if your grandparents who have witnessed the World War or you have witnessed the pandemic of 1918, great grandparents perhaps, and at least even you might have heard that it might have been very traumatic for them, and they keep reliving that experience. And if there is a sufficient social fabric and you have good social support system, then perhaps it is often masked or it goes into the background. But in the kind of times that we are living in, we might have more and more cases of PTSD in times to come. So they say that the prevalence of PTSD is also very high in people who have survived the ICU hospitalization. So people who end up with pneumonia currently and who end up in the ICU and who survive to tell the tale might suffer from this kind of an anxiety disorder, this stress disorder for a long time to come. And of course, this risk is higher in women statistically. They say 4 times higher. Next slide. Yes. So they're saying that now in the current situation, let's talk about the COVID-19 outbreak. The researchers are warning that the coronavirus pandemic can inflict long-lasting emotional trauma, and we can see it from the kind of anxious state that patients are now. Probably all homeopaths are experiencing this because a lot of people will approach you first for this kind of a situation. So they are anxious, they are not able to sleep, they have digestive disturbances, they feel nervous, irritable, and this kind of, and it's an unprecedented state that we're experiencing. So this is going to go on the global scale. And they say that it could leave millions because apart from the fact that the suffering that this illness is inflicting, the kind of economic downslide that has happened or is threatening to happen, that itself is going to instill a lot of insecurity and a lot of anxiety in people. So a lot of people will be without jobs, and millions of people are going to be isolated. And the one thing is sure, that life before Corona and life after Corona is going to change for every human being on earth. Next one. And what are the diagnostic criteria? We just saw the clinical manifestations, but the diagnostic criteria, we just run through this quickly, is of course there has to be a history of exposure to trauma. And in this case, it's very evident the trauma that we are all experiencing. Persistent of the traumatic event, persistent
avoidance of stimuli, negative alterations in moods. The person is all the time negative, talking negative things, never positive, never cheerful. The symptoms of increased arousal, person is always alert, scared. Symptoms which last for more than a month. Because remember one thing is that there is always a natural period of grief, of bereavement, of fear, of anxiety with following any kind of a traumatic event. And it's our own immune response which will help us to get out of it. So all of us are going through this phase in various degrees, but some of us will come out of it unscared. But there are large numbers who may not be able to deal with it, and these symptoms may persist even after a month, and that's when you can make a definite diagnosis of PTSD. And of course, the clinical significant distress in functioning, it affects their social behavior, their social interaction, probably their work, their occupation. And you can definitely say that it is not attributed to any kind of physiological effects of any drug, any remedies that he or she might be taking, any medication that has been going on, or any substance that the person has been consuming. This is not attributed to that. It's very different. And then there are the criteria. We'll go through this very quickly. The direct criteria, the ones which are related to directly experiencing the traumatic event. So either you've gone through it, or somebody, one of your family members or someone close to you has gone through this illness. In this case, I'm talking about the illness because we know what the current trauma is. And learning from that traumatic event, like you see a close friend or a family person, and then that in that case, that threat of death or threat of that thing happening to you will also be looming on your mind all the time. So the person who goes through it will experience repeated exposure to that, to the aversive detail. So somebody close to, like you have a family member who's gone through this pandemic, who has gone through it and probably survived and come out of it. But you might hear more and more cases which are not doing so well. So there's a constant infliction or a constant inductment of the traumatic event all the time. And that actually does not help the recovery at all. And then the second criteria. Yes, second slide. Yes. And then persisting re-experience of the traumatic event. As I said, you go on reliving it. It goes through your mind like a flashback all the time, affecting your, so it's a lot of psychological distress. So the person goes into a shell, sometimes goes into denial, does not want to face it. And then it comes through in very violent dreams, or you may have nightmares, which the person is not able to deal with, or insomnia, which again is a very major factor. The third criteria. Yeah. Yeah. The persistence, avoidance of stimuli. So the person does not want to get in touch with any kind of stimulus which reminds him or her of that stressful event. Next. Yes. Next one. Yes, so the criteria for, yes, negative alteration. So the person is all the time negatively affected, is all the time in a bad mood, in a offensive mood, is perhaps in a very sad, despondent, melancholic mood. So there is a negative alteration in cognition and mood. So it may even affect a person's memory, in his cognitive function, in his focus. So these are the negative effects of the PTSD. Which is the next criteria? Yeah. Next criteria, we are talking about a negative alteration. Yeah. Persistent symptoms, as I said, there's hyperarousal all the time. Patient is alert and keeps looking for things which might he suspects could be a symptom of the problem that others are facing. So it's very irritable, the behavior. There can be angry outbursts, hypervigilance, startling it. There's a startled response. So this is also one thing. This is very important. I hope you all are following this, because this we are going to relate to the homeopathic application. Next one. Can we just rush through the slides, please? Because we've already spoken about it. Yeah, so the last three diagnostic criteria of PTSD are: one is duration of the disturbance. It has to be more than a month. And the disturbance causes clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning, and the disturbance is not attributed to any other physiological effects. Next one. Yes, so conventional treatment, as you know, that we have drugs which are benzodiazepines, and there could be some other serotonin inhibitors like fluoxetine and paroxetine and sertraline. And of course, you have cognitive behavior therapy and emotional processing theory. There is group therapy. So all these things, and then you have the other techniques like meditation and yoga and psychological counseling, etc. Now let's see how homeopathy comes into it. Yes. So homeopathy is one of the therapeutic systems of medicine based on Similia similibus curenta. We know that like cures like. Next one. Assuming that all of us are homeopaths, we don't need to really know about all this. We know that it be based on the law of similars. What can produce symptoms in a healthy individual is the same therapeutic agent which can cure the symptoms in a diseased person. And of course, what we believe is in the law of the minimum dose. We just need the right amount of remedy to kickstart the process of cure when the innate immunity of the patient will take over. Next one. Yes. Now here, now if you look at this is also like an epidemic. The psychological effects that the patient is going to experience is also like goes parallel to the physical epidemic. So just as you have fever and headache and malaise and body ache, the symptoms which are common to the viral infection, similarly, the psychological symptoms are also common. And they are like a feeling of listlessness, of lethargy, of despondency, sadness, of fear, anxiety, anticipation, apathy. So all these symptoms can also be common. So you can call it a kind of a psychological epidemic which follows the physical epidemic. And therefore we have based this approach on Hahnemann's theory of epidemic diseases. So if you go through the 102nd aphorism of Hahnemann, where he says, that the whole extent of an epidemic disease and the totality of its symptoms cannot be learned by one single patient, but is only to be perfectly deduced and ascertained from the suffering of several patients of different constitutions. So when several patients of different constitutions suffer from a similar set of symptoms, which are related to the collective influx, uh, it's a collective response to the external factor, in this case the global pandemic. So this is a collective response to that factor, and that is why we can classify it into this into the theory of epidemic diseases, where we can draw a common symptomatology, a common protocol, where we can note these symptoms, and we will see that almost everybody is suffering from these symptoms in various degrees. So one person may experience fear as the presenting symptom, somebody may be anxiety, somebody will say apathy, somebody will say helplessness. So these are the some of the presenting symptoms, but it's a question of just matter of degrees, because the symptomatology which is presenting is almost common for all the people who are going to be facing PTSD in the coming few months, and this is something which you can observe. So how do we arrive at the remedy? So what you do is you concentrate on the presenting signs, and most of them, as I said, it will be, I will show you the symptoms and signs which we have repertorized. So it will be fear, anxiety, it will be hysteria, because you're experiencing something like mass hysteria. People are actually all the time only talking about this illness. All the time there is nothing else that is being talked about, no other topic of conversation. So you concentrate on the presenting symptoms and signs. You devise a common totality of symptoms, repertorize. So you'll get a group of remedies which are based on the common totality. And what you have to do now is select the keynote rubric to differentiate the indicated remedy from the common group of remedies. I'll show you how. Let's go to the repertorial totality. Yes, so this is the keynote method of prescribing. Let's go to the next slide. Yes, so a keynote, what is it doing? It's a fundamental symptom, and that will give us, because what happens, it helps us to narrow down. It helps the prescriber to find the remedy in a given case more quickly, because the field of selection has been narrowed. Common, all symptoms. And here there is this gem, this keynote, this characteristic, which is going to sift the remedy from the other remedies. So let's go on to the next one. Yes, so this is the main thing. I would like each of you to know characterization for PTSD. So we have taken all the repertories, yeah, most of them. Murphy, Boric, Complete, Bonninghausen, Patak. Um, so these are the repertories we have taken, and you can see that the symptoms covered are fears, phobias, general disease of impending, fears, dread, death, fatal disease, impending evil. There's a hysteria, which is again taken from Complete and Bonninghausen. Mood disposition, melancholic, despondent, depressed, low-spirited, gloomy, apprehensive. Ennui, boredom. Now, this ennui is a very, very funny symptom because it doesn't mean just simple boredom. It is a combination of lethargy, of lack of drive, and this is what a lot of patients have been experiencing. Then cloudiness, confusion. Some of them are coming with those symptoms. Inactive, lethargic, apathetic. Mood, disposition, indolent. So there's lack of ambition. There's nothing left in life now. There's nothing. Everything has changed. The earth is coming to an end. So anxiety, health about, of course, very common. Everybody is experiencing this. And of course, the last one is shock, emotional, mental symptoms from, because this is that what people have gone through. This is something that they're not able to take. So you can look at this and you can see the remedies that are coming on. The most common ones are Nux vomica, Aconite. Absolutely no. Can you go back to the earlier slide, please? Yeah. Okay, fine. Fine. This is good enough. So the group of remedies derived after repetization are Nux vomica. Then you have phosphorus. Where's the earlier slide, please? I'm not able to see the slide. Yes. Yes. The group of, go back to the earlier slide. Yes. Nux vomica, Aconite, phosphorus, acid phosphoricum, Calcarea carbonicum, gelsemium, sepia, pulsatilla, anacardium, ignatia, orometallicum, conium, natrum muriaticum, sulfur, and arnica montana. And if you look at this, that all these remedies, if you see, have a great disposition to the mental state. They have a great disposition to the mind, and all these have very, very characteristic mind rubrics. So these are the gems of a materia medica, which are used to treat several psychological, psychiatric conditions. And these are the remedies that are coming up. Of course, there are more remedies. You have argentum nitricum, a lot of people might be thinking, which is not seen here. That is also coming up. Opium should be one of the remedies that should be coming up. It is coming up, but these are the ones we can even discuss the other remedies if necessary. Mind you, now there is one very important thing that I will have to tell you is that every single remedy of materia medica can be used for post-traumatic stress disorder if it is strongly indicated. This is a guideline because now we are dealing with a very unprecedented situation. We are dealing with like something like a psychological epidemic that's going to be throwing up at us. And as homeopaths, we must be prepared to deal with it. We must know materia medica well. We must know the remedies which are indicated in such situations very well. And invariably, you'll find that the indicated remedy is often one of these remedies. Right? So, next one.
Ma'am, just a request. 7 to 8 minutes are left. So we will
Yeah.
have the remedies and we can continue the remedies in the next session.
Yes, certainly we can continue all the remedies in this next session. And
Right now we can
like.
Right now we can take 2
Yes.
to 3 remedies, ma'am.
Yeah. So would you like to take remedy or would you like to take some questions on the earlier session? What would you like to do? Tell me, guide me. So we can. Yes.
Any way you like.
Are there any questions coming in? Are there any questions coming in?
Just a
Are there any questions right now? If there are questions, then we can discuss them right now, or we can keep it at in the next session. In fact, as I said, that these are the group of remedies. We can discuss a few.
Ma'am, they are asking to discuss remedy. Yeah.
Right. So we will discuss the remedies from now on. We have 7 to 8 minutes, 5 minutes. So let me discuss a few remedies now, and then the other remedies will be discussed after the break. We have enough time. Don't worry, we have enough time for question answers also. So if you think of Nux vomica, it is a remedy for many conditions. Extremely irritable nervous system, extremely hypersensitive people. They cannot take to any change. They get they're over impressionable to changes. And you can see that all the Nux vomicas are often on edge all the time. and they are not able to deal with, even now if you look at the current situation, they are not able to deal with it. So how do they express? They become irritable because they cannot bear this change. They're irritable to all expectations. How can I be sitting at home? How does the lockdown affect me? Why am I not allowed to go out? Why am I not allowed to do this? So they cannot bear any kind of a change in their schedule because they themselves are so knotted up all the time. Nux vomica cannot give in to any kind of domination because they're so sensitive, they're so irritable, so hyper impressionable that they cannot bear any kind of touch. Touch here it in the literal sense, or you can even take it in the metaphoric sense. And anything that little bit of ailment, little bit of discomfort, they will be very, very irritable. So any kind of throat irritation, they have a headache, they get irritable. And insomnia is one first thing that affects nux vomica. And they wake up very wretched, very, very miserable in the morning. And the cycle keeps continuing. And that's how, and they'll take coffee to, because they're awake all the night, so they'll take coffee, they'll take some stimulant, which worsens their insomnia. So nux vomica is one of the remedies which you can use in PTSD. This is the set of symptoms that the patient presents with. So hyper irritability, hypersensitivity, fear, also there because they're more afraid of what will happen to them. So this is nux vomica for you. The next one. Yes. Aconite, no surprises. Aconite is the leading remedy for all anxiety disorders, for all acute traumas, even chronic, but mostly acute. So the state of fear, anxiety, and anguish, they're so restless, so anguished, so fearful. They are all the time worried. They always think that something bad is going to happen to them. Go back to the earlier slide, please, Dr. Saili. Go back to Aconite. Yes. Every ailment, remember that every ailment, whether it's a fever, whether it is a cough, whether it is a body ache, everything that aconite has is going to be accompanied with anxiety and worry, everything. So they're all the time thinking that whatever ailment they have is going to result in death, that it's going to go to the extreme, nothing is going to be good. So they fear for the future, they fear every little thing, it's going to result in death, is going to result in the extreme situation. And they are one of the most startled remedies of Metia Medica. They have tendency to start, tendency to get scared. Every little influence makes them scared, makes them worried, makes them anxious. And even their dreams are about anxiety. They also suffer from sleeplessness, and they get startled in sleepless. Slightest noise, they will get scared. If there is a news on TV, they are scared. So this is aconite for you. Next one. Yeah, I think it was phosphorus. Yeah. Now, phosphorus is one of our remedies, which is one of the most impressionable, most easily magnetized remedies of Materia Medica. And they fluctuate because phosphorus is extremely inflammable. But when it goes to the pathological state, they become extremely low. So they can, you can have a very active, very violent, very reactive phosphorus, and you can have a totally non-reactive phosphorus. So fear, main thing, fear and panic are the hallmarks of phosphorus. They go into panic states very easily because they are very oversensitive to external impressions, and they always fear death, and they want people around them because they're afraid that if there's nobody, they will die. So they often suffer from very, very severe panic attacks. So you can have a very confident phosphorus, but you know, in times that times like these, when there was a pandemic like this, and there are people around them who are suffering from fever or suffering from who are tested positive for COVID-19, and they go into a state of panic. They think it's going to happen to them, and so if they develop mild fever or headache, they think it's COVID-19, and that's it. So they want people around them. They want to be they want to make sure that they are not going to be suffering from this. So they have this extreme panic state, and they so they don't sleep well. Again, insomnia would be a common symptom in most of these remedies, because that's a common fallout of the post-traumatic stress disorder. It's one of the key symptoms that post-traumatic stress disorder patient is going to express to you. So phosphorus can, you can have a totally indifferent phosphorus, and you can have a hypersensitive phosphorus. Depends on which state he's coming in. Next one. We'll be discussing the remedies more. That can be taken as the last, because you just have 1 minute.
Why are you doing that? Every time you do that, Mama.
Hello?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, so, right, so we have acid phosphoricum. So here again, acid phos and phosphorus, the difference is that there is always a history of grief. Acid
Yeah,
phosphoricum
just
is always
second
experiencing
time you've done this.
and
In the
impaired
morning also
memory.
you
There
did
are
it. It's not the
hello.
option.
Hello,
Second
someone's
Have you
mic
time.
is
muted?
on. Please.
Why I don't know.
Hello, someone's
Please,
mic is on. Please
yes,
mute it
yes.
out.
Please don't unmute yourself yet. Yeah. So we'll just discuss this quickly, this last remedy, because we just have 1 more minute to go. So acid phosphoricum is one of the leading remedies for PTSD. I would say it would absolutely come on the forefront, because for chronic PTSD, the stress disorder which will last more than 3 months, think of acid phos. Because long-standing grief, patient becomes apathetic, indifferent, they have difficulty in focusing, difficulty in comprehension. They are in a state where they don't know what is happening to them. And here you have another set of exact opposite symptoms. They feel sleepy all the time. They don't sleep well, but they feel sleepy all the time because they go into that state where they are unable to deal with the situation, because they are so they get into a state of total apathy, indifference, and this is the despair that they are experiencing because they go into that state, and they are not able to find the right words. Sometimes they are not able to express what they have to, but behind that is that long standing grief of maybe they've lost someone close to them, or even somebody not very close to them, but they experience this grief for some time.